I'm Sarah Russell.
I'm JQ Walker.
And we are
The Neurodivergent Report, a research-based podcast by and for neurodivergent brains.
In each episode, we'll explore topics relating to neurodiversity and coping strategies by reviewing the literature and discussing current topics.
We will also have interview episodes where we sit down with experts in the field and listeners like you, with the hope that together we can all learn to heal in community.
However you are able to engage, thank you for being here. So you asked me just a moment ago, the last time we spoke, It was cold and I hadn't quite launched this podcast, and now it's hot and we've been going for almost 6 months and it's been awesome. Equal parts awesome and also really frustrating because like the technical aspects of running a podcast have been a little frustrating, but like getting to meet a bunch of people and getting to now have two other co-hosts, it's awesome.
That sounds great. I'm glad to hear that you're not alone doing this, because it can be hard.
And I've heard that from some of the other people that we've spoken to. But
cool.
Again, life is crazy.
Yeah.
It's summer vacation. It's almost over, but we still have another month to go. The kids are home. How's it been for you?
Yeah, the kids are home, so it is chaotic.
They are home.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's something to be said about sleepaway camps. Sending your kids away, they could have these amazing, rich experiences in this new setting, rebuild their identity, and then come back a new person. So next year, that's an idea that's brewing in the background.
I am terrified of sending my child out for a period of weeks, but I'm reflecting, and I was privileged enough to go to a sleepaway camp in New York. So, gosh, that was the first time I was ever allowed to be my own person. And I do think that's really important for kids, but also the world is so scary.
Yes.
Anyway, we're not going to go there. We're just going to stop right there.
Yes.
Hold up. Because we're here to talk about work-life balance, which also feels impossible to talk about right now with everything, so much life going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, that's such a silly way to describe it.
You want to do over?
No, I think it's the only way to describe it. I mean, gosh, okay, because there's the kids, right? And they're here. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the global instability and the sort of political gaslighting. I mean, gosh, the last time we spoke, there wasn't even talk about putting neurodivergence in work camps yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, have you been feeling because also the last time we talked, you were traveling a lot in between Canada and somewhere.
Yeah, New York City. And I still am. And I'm going to be doing that for the next 14 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a commitment. How are you so organized that you have a plan for the next 14 years?
Well, how do I even answer this question? I feel like I need containers to put things in. And so I have my life in New York, I have my life in Canada, and I basically put it on the calendar. So my partner and I had this wonderful idea that we're going to send this calendar out to people so everyone knows where we are on any particular day. We haven't gotten around to it, but that's definitely on the roadmap. So if someone says, hey, are you in town on this day to do this? I'm like, actually, no, I know for sure that I'm going to be up in Canada with my kids doing blah, blah, blah. It's a school week. Or, hey, maybe I can. Maybe the kids and I could take off some time and be with you guys in this random city, or I'll be in New York doing work. I just need that clarity, because without that, I think I'd go insane.
I understand. Certainty is definitely one of the basic needs, in the Maslow's pyramid. That's really interesting. I can't imagine how I don't know. That just sounds so.
Well, what's interesting, and connecting back to the theme of this podcast, is this whole idea of work-life balance. And so much of my mental bandwidth is stuck in logistics. What am I packing to bring up on the next trip? What do I need from the kid's mother for the next trip to Canada? What do I need to bring down for the next trip back to New York? So there's all these admin tasks that are just kind of floating around. And I'm sure you're the same way, even though you're not traveling back and forth every week. Like, you probably have a whole list of admin tasks stuck in the back, and I'm not sure if it's affecting your work-life balance. But historically, it hasn't, and more recently, it has for me. How's it for you?
So, gosh, I feel like I haven't been working as much. You know, in the past 6 months, I would say I haven't had as many clients as I've had the past several years for very obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, kids sort of, I think one of my favorite things I've ever heard is they take up the amount of time that you let them. And so I really found that, yeah, I could just spend every moment just like going around doing something. But is it in service of like my end goal, which is feeling like I've enjoyed time with my kids?
Yeah,
You know?
it's so true.
So, yeah, forcing myself to like stop and reflect constantly to be like, am I in service of my goal? Am I in service of my goal? You know, instead of letting the stress of everything, of rushing around, you know, making sure that we have everything that we need. My toddler isn't potty trained. And so we need, I don't even know the list of things that we need in order to leave the house. You know, but chances are we're going to forget something. It's impossible to be constantly prepared. So again, how much do I let that affect the rest of my day? I think that's what I'm framing as work-life balance right now. Because really my only work is this podcast, and then I do still have some clients, but it's not a stressful amount. It's like, ooh, I get to see people today.
Totally. That's a great attitude to have.
Yeah. Also, I just got to have a like impromptu beach day yesterday, and that was great. Like, there's spontaneity that you can't, like, you just don't have time for that when you've got 20 clients. You've obviously already been listening a little bit, but officially I need to introduce our guest today. We have Shaun Arora. Hello.
Hey, Sarah.
Welcome back. You all might remember very early on, I interviewed Shaun, and we were talking about, like, you know, neurotypes, neuroinclusion. But yeah, I wanted to bring Shaun back today to do research.
Yeah. So I had a friend at Microsoft, and Microsoft has this research team. They work with a number.
No, I didn't even know. That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the research involves testing on their employees, and the idea is that the company could gain a competitive edge if they have a theory that if we make these certain changes, then our employees are going to be happier, they're going to be more productive, whatever it is. And so this research that we're talking about today, the exact name is Improving Work Non-Work Balance with Data-Driven Implementation, Intention, and Mental Contrasting. It's from a bunch of current and former Microsoft employees. They all got together and have been pushing a lot of research and work around this whole idea of data-driven IIMC, as they like to refer to it. And it's much easier to say that way. So I'm guessing that's why they like to refer to it that way. But basically, it just means you're setting goals, you're trying to meet them, and there might be some data element to tracking the goals. And so I'm not sure.
And also, like, it was in how they like phrased the goals as well, like the specific, like, if-then language. And they had, what was it, separated into like 4 different groups of how they would phrase.
Yeah. So the research methodology involved 4 groups, and they were just comparing and contrasting between these 4 groups. One group was using the full approach that they're trying to advocate for, which is the data-driven approach that uses both the II and the MC. The II meaning implementation intentions, and that's basically if-then statements. An example of that would be, I did this bike race, and it was a very long bike race, and at some point I was really tired and losing my motivation. So one thing that I used to motivate me was say, okay, if I make it another 10 minutes, the if statement, then I will get a grape. And it allowed me to get closer to my goal. my daughter a couple days ago said, hey, if I wake up before 7 a.m., I'll put away my laundry. Otherwise, I won't. That's definitely a much more realistic way to do it. She didn't wake up before 7 a.m. She did not put away her laundry. She has a huge pile there, but she used these implementation intentions. I intend to implement this with these particular contexts. So
I do that all the time. I feel like that's how I get through my day. First this, then this. It's sometimes all my brain can like hold in my working memory, but obviously my working memory is so impacted by, it's too variable. I never know what I'm gonna get. And so it's really good to be able to use that like super basic structure.
Do you have an example?
Yeah. I feel like I'm always measuring things in increments. When I go on walks, you know, it's about like, am I feeling okay to get to the next checkpoint? Which I guess is kind of like the reverse, you know, if this, then this, but like I'm able to continue instead of I'm able to stop. Like this is completed kind of thing. Let's see, let me think of a better, like a work example. Yeah, so today, for example, I'm publishing tomorrow's episode. And so all day I've been establishing like goalposts to where I can stop and then go do like another thing. So first I listened to the episode and then I was able to go, I don't know, I had breakfast. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that could be an example. And also the example on the walk is definitely relevant.
Like measuring time in increments, right?
It's measuring time in increments to achieve a certain goal. All this is basically how do I meet goals? And this particular research was how do I meet goals related to work-life balance? So that's the I part. The MC, mental contrasting, is basically imagine the future and you know what the present is. So what are some of the challenges in achieving that future? So it's kind of like the base for most coaching these days. It's just, hey, I want to achieve that. What's stopping me from achieving that? Let's go figure that out and achieve it. So yeah, it's kind of this IIMC is basically just goal setting, but they decided to split it up and say, okay, what if we just do the II part, just the if then statements? What if we do just the MC part? What if we do the whole thing and add a data layer to it? And then what if we do nothing? And how does that create results? So those are the 4 groups you're referring to, the control group and these other ones.
Why is it? So why is that important? Basically, because we can use it personally, right? Like, was it successful?
Yes, but it's with a big asterisk. You said this, and I'm going to look at my notes.
Honestly, I tried to turn it into a worksheet, and it was just too much. Like, I could see myself maybe finding some of it useful sometimes, but not all of it, and definitely not all the time. Is that what they found?
They found one thing that was in pursuit of their goal of saying, hey, it's not Microsoft's goal. It's this team of 7 researchers' goal to really push this data-driven model out there. And you said this earlier before the intro. You said that you constantly ask yourself, am I in service of my goal? And just by asking that question, you're going to get some level of improvement of getting closer to that goal because you're asking yourself. And this research, basically, they did the same thing. 5 times per day, it would show up in Microsoft Teams. Are you in service of your goal? Basically, they were asking that question. They were asking, and then you'd have to enter a data component of, yes, I'm getting closer. How much time I spent on these type of things? How do I feel about these things? So they were tracking it. And because you're tracking it and you're measuring it, then you're going to achieve some level of results there. So unfortunately,
because you're putting intention on that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So of course, obviously, they're going to see some sort of gain. The control was not a real control.
I just wanted to like, because people, I don't know, to me, it's very like manifest destiny. Like, yeah, I say I'm going to do it and it happened. And it's like, well, yes, but when you put effort towards anything, like the odds of that happening are much more likely than just never even wishing for it. I don't know.
Totally.
people can be very dismissive of language, like intention and stuff like that. So I think that's probably just what I was responding to, but not in this room. I don't know. Anyway. Cool. So if I ever do develop that worksheet, it sounds like the most important parts are what is my goal and how does this action service that goal?
Right. And there's also the data-driven part of it, which is what kind of data matters. And so if you look at the Microsoft...
That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. The way that Microsoft thought about it was time. They said, if I'm spending time on a goal, then I'm going to get closer to meeting my goal. What's your take on that?
It's very bootstrapsy. Like, action doesn't always equal results. There's a lot that goes into it. I think resources. Wait, how does that sentence end? Yeah, I think it depends on, like, is it just one person spending that amount of time in service of the goal, or is it like an entire team of people who have the resources to spend time on that goal? Oh. That feels like a yes and.
Possibly, or it could be a no end. Have you ever spent time on something and turned out it was the wrong thing? You know, like maybe you're wasting time. Yeah. Yes. But also, there's something to be said about like the reputation of people with ADHD who procrastinate. And the negative point of view is they're procrastinating, but the positive point of view is they're just gathering all the data and they're synthesizing it, and we just can't see the magic that's going on there. And they might not be spending quantifiable time on the task and the goal, but they might be more effective than someone who's spending half an hour a day on that one thing. So I had a hard time with the study because they're saying basically time spent equals results.
Yeah, and I disagree with that formula entirely. I wonder if I wonder if we go in and see their justification for that. Oh my gosh, time shows up 104 times in the paper.
That's ridiculous.
So I think I need to narrow that down. What are we really looking for? Time spent. Yeah, I just don't know how they would even say that just because you spend time on something, it's gonna.
Yeah, because you can't count the quality of the time. I mean, like some people work and there's like a diminishing return on their investment in time. And then other people, they get in a flow state.
Yeah, true. But you could like stay up all night and not make any progress.
Yeah.
And then give yourself that nap and then wake up and do it in 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Because what you really needed was the rest. Anyway, the podcast that is going to be released tomorrow morning is about executive functioning and the autonomic nervous system. Basically, like a grounded, regulated nervous system is going to be able to executively function. That's not how I want to say that at all. Basically, I forget her exact words, but executive functioning is just a given for a nervous system that is well regulated. A lot of the ADHD symptoms that we see are really just distress symptoms. That losing stuff, the rushing around places, like that's someone who's in distress. That's not every ADHD person all the time. And so the podcast is really just about like grounding yourself to be able to do the things. So yeah, I don't know. I just have a very big problem with, I don't know. I feel like I can't even move on because like, yeah, I also disagree that time, and I can't even say it succinctly, but time spent certainly does not equal rewards.
Yeah. Well,
just coming from
move on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just like I have like a working class background, and I'm just thinking about like my dad who spent decades like working really hard with his body. Like he gave his entire body and he has nothing for it but disability. So I don't know, maybe instead of like harping on you about it, I should at the person who wrote this study and be like, hey, let's do more. Yeah. Anyway, I'm constantly finding the baby in the bathwater.
So what was interesting to you?
I really liked the framework for like, okay, so as a mom of a toddler and just like two different, just I don't know. I feel like as a person in 2025, I'm constantly overwhelmed. And so I need like a framework for moving forward and for establishing like, is what I'm doing right now helping me or am I just spinning my wheels in the mud? And so what I really loved was that they were trying to do that and to establish like a way for people to very clearly go through and see. And I really resonate with that because I'm like I'm looking for the secret formula to that.
And that's really interesting because you're looking for the secret formula. We're all looking for it. They had 40 something people volunteer for the study, and some of them had success. I don't know if there is one formula for everybody, but there's probably one formula for you. There's probably one formula for me in doing this.
Right.
And these are just ideas out there.
And it's anchored in our priorities, which are naturally going to be different. I looked at your notes and I thought it was really interesting that one person in the study struggled. They found that tracking their time was actually a bad thing.
Yeah.
For them, like what did they just like over obsess about tracking? Like did they spend way too much time tracking? I didn't actually read.
It was a burden for them. Imagine this chatbot popping up 5 times a day saying you have to fill this thing out and you have to log everything you did for the past half hour. And there's all these different like screens you have to go through. Actually, let me pull up the screen on my side. Was it, there was like what kind of activity? Where were you? Were you like commuting? Were you at home? Were you at the office?
Like a time pressure thing. Not only like would it take a lot of time, but also you have to do this like right now. Otherwise, it's like it's going to explode in the trash can sort of thing.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you. So, how do you handle notifications on your phone and computer?
So I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb while we are recording this podcast because if my Fitbit buzzes me while we're talking, I'm going to forget what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that fluctuates throughout the day. Sometimes I'm more able to manage my distractions than other times throughout the day. But like right now it's late afternoon and I'm feeling like it's time to eat, for example. So I'm thinking about that a little bit. My body's sending me cues about that a little bit. And now I forget what we were talking about before I started talking about distractions.
And also the fan's off.
The fan's off. Thank you. Yeah. It's like my brain's getting a little overheated, right? No, you were talking about notifications. So yeah,
exactly.
Most of the time, I have set boundaries around like when I'm available for messaging because I'm so susceptible to distractions. Maybe that person really struggles with transitioning from task to task. And so having to be pulled away at the drop of a hat, gosh, I'm using a lot of idioms today. I could see that being challenging.
I think it's challenging for everybody.
I'm also thinking that like 5 times a day isn't nearly enough.
Oh, interesting.
To get an accurate understanding, I think. Maybe it depends on what they were asking people.
It was mainly just time logging. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
A lot of people, anyways.
Yeah, so for that one respondent, like I could just imagine how disruptive these interruptions could be. Like I am in do not disturb mode all day, 24/7. So for people like me, like I don't want that interruption popping up 5 times a day. That's too much for me. Yeah, like if I have this little reminder in my project list that I use, and by the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I should go back and check my text messages to see if anyone texted me today. So I don't get the notifications. I just have to like manually force myself to check it. Otherwise, I just don't. I time bucket emails and time bucket text messages and all these other things.
And that sounds like something that's only possible for me sometimes, like when my kid is at school, I can't go unavailable for long stretches of time because I'm the one that they're going to call.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely backfired a few times when the school's been trying to reach me. Yeah, I have to add that to okay, they get a pass. School never calls me, so if the school calls, they can get through the notifications.
Absolutely. Yeah, I forgot that you can set those rules up now. It just takes a little bit of planning ahead. Yeah, tech has really improved for sure in the last 10 years, but it does contribute a lot to that like always on aspect, which is kind of why they did this study in the first place. Yeah, also in the notes here, this was a short-term study. They only did it for 3 weeks. So maybe like it was like the novelty, there was a lot of engagement maybe in the beginning because of that. I don't know what the Hawthorne effect is.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hawthorne effect is basically that any novelty will have an impact. People will, if they know that they're being measured, their behavior will change.
I guessed correctly. That makes me so happy.
Yeah. And the example that I think that's related to the Hawthorne effect is many years ago, I did a office renovation, and we painted the rooms like this like nice like optimal color that the architect recommended. This guy came up to me. He's like, "Hey, that's a Hawthorne effect thing, right?" I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you're gonna paint the walls this nice color, and you're gonna see a productivity boost, just like the consultant said." I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, and then it's gonna go away because any change is gonna create that boost. So it made me think of like, all right, you do something new, there's gonna be exciting, there's gonna be excitement and novelty. These people in the study, they tried a new system. It's exciting. I wonder how many of these people are using this tool that are getting effects, or if it was just, hey, we're being observed, we're being tracked, we're part of the study, so we're going to try really hard to be good students. They're Microsoft employees. Of course, they're going to try really hard to do it well. And so, yeah.
That is a really interesting point. Let's see. What do I really want to talk about? I don't even know. I think the inconsistency that comes with being me. No, so, I have chronic illness, my executive dysfunction stuff is like all crazy. You never know what you're going to get because hormones and health.
Yeah, one of the takeaways that we noted was the ADHD, you called it the ADHD planner graveyard. So yeah. I remember talking to one person who said, I don't want another ADHD planner. I have a whole stack of them that I only started for a few weeks, and they're just sitting right there in the corner.
Yeah. Yep. I can look up and see, I think 5 different notebooks that all have like different purposes because they're just too nice to use for scratch paper. And there is no logical reason for that. That's just a silly thing. I've actually gotten to the point where I can at least like start writing in them instead of like saving them forever untouched.
Yeah, that resonates with me too.
Yeah, that is such a weird neurodivergent thing. I don't know what it's about.
Yeah, one thing I started doing was I'll have one nice notebook, and then the rest are just like Post-its. And so I could write something on a Post-it, I could throw it away when I'm done. There's no commitment. As opposed to getting a notebook, it's like, all right, this notebook has to be for this particular thing, and I have to write it in it. And if I don't write in, I can't use it for the other purpose. Like, no. Post-its you can use for any purpose unless you start getting too focused on this color has to be for this purpose and that color has to be for that purpose. And oh no, I'm out of the yellow Post-its. I have to go to the store. I can't do my job.
That's amazing too, because most of these journals will like close, and so the Post-its won't go everywhere. That's incredible. I could see having a color system, but maybe something simple like work and home, But yeah, I've worked with lots of clients who are just, I think they carry a lot of shame around their inability to use a planner. And it's really just what I was fumbling about around consistency. We struggle to use the tool in the same way all the time because we're not the same all the time. And so we don't need, we get really rigid around our systems and the rules that we're using that we forget that if the tool isn't working for you, then you need to change the system. And there's no shame about that. I think that's the most important thing that people can take away from this podcast episode.
Yeah. But how do you know when to to abandon the tool. I mean, maybe I'm just doing it wrong. Maybe I just need to work harder. Maybe there's something wrong with me.
You could make a small change first, like you suggested. I'm still thinking about the journal with the post-it notes, but like when I'm struggling to get going on writing and I know that I need to get it done though, I change my room and I try to change my temperature because I'm constantly hot. Like I need to put like ice on the back of my neck or something. I sweat a lot. I don't know. I'm just like really hyper. And yeah, so changing how I physically feel can also change how my brain is able to function. Like if I were to turn the fan back on or to go get like an ice pack, I would probably calm down. I'm just noticing that. I'm not judging myself for that.
It's really interesting. So here's a system where if you say that your job is to do podcast interviews, record them with great audio quality, but this one tool that can help you, this fan, isn't the right tool. You're suffering through the heat. Maybe suffering is appropriate. Maybe there's a better tool out there.
Riverside, if you're listening, get better at blocking out fans. Maybe your AI can recognize that there's a fan and you can just turn it off. I don't know. It does amazing things with identifying the different tracks. We can't be that far off.
Yeah. So when I think about all these, you're looking externally for solutions, but what are things that you could do? Like, what if you just filled a bucket of ice and water and stuck your feet in it? Like, could that be helpful?
I would be afraid to do that around all of this technology, but yeah, that probably would be helpful. No, I recently saw an ad for like a cooling towel, and it claimed that if it got wet, then it would stay cool for a couple of hours. And that sounds incredible. As someone with a chronic illness, a chronic sweaty illness, I would definitely try that. So I guess I'll let you know. Maybe that was TMI. Nobody can tell my temperature through the...
Yeah, I remember I was trying this wristband that would cool you down. Yeah, I don't think it really worked for me, but I'm also I have weak interoception, so maybe it'll work for you. Okay, I could tell.
That would be cool.
Literally.
Yeah. I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I think I do want to create some kind of a worksheet using this framework a little bit. You know, I said I was trying and I came away with something like, what are my top 3 priorities today? Or like, it could even just be one. What is my one priority for today? And why does this matter to me?
How are you going to measure it? That's the data-driven part.
What do you mean?
Well, the data that they were using at Microsoft was time. What I do when I'm managing different metrics is I do some sort of data thing. So back in my 20s, I would say, hey, I want to get better at this one skill. And then every single day, at the end of the day, I would just say, did I get better? I would say +1. Did I get worse? -1, or neutral 0. And so I was using that to track my skills. Today, I have this system where I'm tracking like how many days am I writing? And so I'll just like bold in the date of, hey, I wrote that day. So I have a visual reminder. There's data could look like anything, and it could be quantifiable and crunchable, or it could be something just as fuzzy and visual as this. How would you measure that one thing?
I would have to find one thing that is the top priority all the time, you know, in order to be able to measure it like that. And so that doesn't sound feasible, but
maybe, like, for example, maybe this could be helpful for you and your audience. Every quarter I ask my kids, how am I doing as a pop on a scale of 1 to 10? And they'll give me these scores, and then I'll ask a follow-up question of, what can I do better? Do you have any recommendations? And so I've been tracking this for years now, of their responses and their scores, and I'm seeing like ups and downs. Here's another metric. Instead of saying, I love you, I've been asked the question, do you feel loved? And yes or no. And like, it's a simple question. Some people would track, hey, do I have money in my bank account? Or did I get everything done today? Or do I feel comfortable with everything that I did today? I was coaching somebody yesterday, and we came up with some really fun metrics for him. And if you give me a second, I'll just pull it up. There we go. One goal that we came up with is he wants to build confidence to communicate crisply. Well, today, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you're tracking that? And so we're still on a time measurement thing. We're still interrupting the day now just once a day instead of 5 times a day. We're asking a question. We're watching this behavior. But it is a fuzzy goal, building confidence. Like, you can't really measure what degree of confidence did I have today. It's very subjective. But it is something that at least you're watching, you're tracking, and you could try to move the needle on.
So much of my goals are wrapped in how I feel about things, because I think my somatic experience really impacts my ability to like just be, but that's fine. I loved what you said about, do you feel loved, instead of saying I love you all the time. Because I say I love you a lot, but in the same vein, I started saying like, you should be so proud of yourself to my son, instead of saying like, I'm so proud of you. I don't know, just really subtle reframes can be helpful, but that's not what I was going to say. It was about measuring things.
Well, I'm really curious about what you would want to measure. You said feelings, how you feel about certain things.
Yeah, but then how does that get me in service to my goals? Yeah, I feel like I'm having a hard time with goals lately because the future feels so out of my control. One of the reflection questions from this framework is like, is this within my control? And a lot of things are just like not.
It's so funny to say that. The same person who set up the goal around communication, his second goal is, I feel capable of managing my career. Like, feeling in control versus giving up control. And if control is a thing, maybe one of the trackers is, how many times today did I give up control? How many times today did I feel tempted to give up control, but I actually acted differently? If I was coaching someone, I would basically just say, hey, like, notice this and try to build awareness and see if you were able to interrupt the process of giving up control, where you did take more control.
It feels so applicable to like different things. That could be emotional, verbal, like outbursts. That's a lot of things. That could be, gosh, I'm sorry. I've been really struggling with goals and all of that lately. I've been just very cynical, and I think that's interesting. I just think that's interesting because I'm such a positive, like, I'm a happy person. I think it's the global instability is really starting to affect me like all the time. And I don't think I don't know. Obviously, it's an uncomfortable thing.
Well, if we were using this model, the MC part would talk about, what would your inspired self be like in the future? Like, if you look out, let's say 6 months from now, and you're at your best, what has changed?
I feel like I'm about to talk about like some 25-year goals. And you asked me about 6 months. And that's part of the problem, is that I can't see, like, I have no idea what 6 months from now is going to look like, because that's not true. It's going to look exactly like it does right now, except it's going to be cold. I need to stop myself. Hold on. What is 6 months from now? August, February, the darkest month of the year. Here's a good metric. I've been really enjoying this podcast and like running it and creating it, but sometimes I'm just tired too. And I think collaborating with everyone has been a challenge because we're always feeling energy at different points, Like, I've clearly been getting increasingly depressed over the months, and not because of like anything, not because of anything, just because of everything. We're just watching it all happen, very sort of like individually helpless to stop it. And so that's very much where I'm at. So the metric for me, like, I really struggled to get my shit together for this episode. Like, I've been wanting to talk to you again, but just like, what about? You know, I feel sometimes like unable to help anyone because we can only like help them feel better about the situation, but we can't change their material conditions for now. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this like work life conversation. Like I said, life is just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for being so sad.
I think it's appropriate to be sad and it's normal and we should normalize this. Yeah, we shouldn't always have to be forced to put on a happy face as a podcast host. You have a lot of things going on and it's hard to know, especially in those early days, like what the podcast is and what's resonating with the audience and what they want to hear next. And we came on here talking about certain things and something from here might have an impact and something from here that you put onto the world might end up getting to the ears of someone who really needed to hear it. And we just never know. Oftentimes we get really surprised when we do these type of things. I remember in my past life, I would give these talks and someone come up to me and said, hey, that one thing that you said really had a huge impact on me. And I'm like, I don't even remember that one thing. So yeah, these things happen. And if you keep on doing things that you're passionate about, there's probably someone else out there in the world that also shares that passion, that also needs to hear whatever it is that you're saying. I think that you modeling vulnerability and sadness is something that we don't see often enough. And I just want to recognize and celebrate you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Society seems to prioritize survival over everything these days. Like we're out here fighting and we don't always have time to like process our emotions, I think. I don't know why I'm choosing right now to do that, but thank you. All right.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah. I have like a very physical experience when I get sad. Obviously, like it affected my whole ability to breathe, even. You know, and that's like crying or whatever, but it feels involuntary. And so, whenever you're like witnessed having an involuntary reaction that feels really vulnerable, and like, please make it stop. Like, my body wants to run away, but I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna finish this episode. I think, what's even left to say? Like, obviously, my day is done. And luckily, I had already arranged it to be. You know, I was able to get through all of my early priorities because I knew exactly what I needed to get done. Like, my one thing that I needed to do today was schedule tomorrow's podcast episode, you know, and like meet with a client. And talk about how good I am at grieving. Look at me, I'm doing it. So yeah, so everything that I've done today was to make sure that I was like pushing myself closer to that goal. So really, a lot of my troubles have been solved by going slower and doing less. And that's been really hard to learn how to go slow and do less. That feels really silly to say.
Why would it be silly?
It's sort of like, I don't know, they teach us not to be lazy, but then they don't teach us how much is too much. And by they, I just mean like authority figures, you know, teachers, parents, that sort of thing, people who raise you. And people really struggle to find the middle ground on their own. And so if you're constantly throwing us at the extremes, we're going to get really uncomfortable. So yeah, it was, again, it feels silly because it's so obvious. Like, yeah, you'll feel better if you're not rushing. Your heart rate will be lower if you're not running around all the time.
Yes, we all know this, and yet we all fall into this trap. What I'm thinking, we talked about a lot of things, but I think what is really interesting is that just what happened here was something that just doesn't happen a lot. And it's not a bad thing. But when it happens in the real world outside of podcast, how do you transition? And I'm curious for you, what are you going to do after this podcast? How are you going to transition and take care of yourself before the next thing, whatever it is, kids, life?
The very first thing I'm going to do is change my temperature. And I'm going to do that by like going into the room with the AC and like putting my hands on it. Because that'll help a lot. It still looks too humid to go outside. Like, I really enjoy going outside. I have a whole ritual around calming down outside and like listening for 10 different things, you know, just like noticing 10 things as I breathe 10 times. But if it's like uncomfortable to breathe out there, then I need to reach for another option. You know, I don't usually do this, but my mouth is feeling like feels like it wants to stim, and so I'm gonna go get a lollipop. And that might have been even a weird thing to say, and so like, how do I know? And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like my mouth wants to move, like my mouth is restless. Just
Does it feel like tight, constrained?
It feels like it's moving already, which is crazy because it's not. I don't know. It's not tight and it's not burning. Yeah, I don't know. There are some sensations that are really difficult to explain, but it just like, I don't know. I also have always been someone who like grinds their teeth in their sleep. And so I'm really familiar with just like needing to move my mouth. Yeah. Anyway. So I'm going to go get like different input, you know? I've already got it picked out. I've got Tootsie Roll Pops, and my favorite flavor is the raspberry.
Nice. I love that. Well, I wish you luck.
I'm going to do, because I feel like this was stressful for you.
Honestly, I'm witness to a lot from my coaching clients. And so in these moments, I listen. In my coaching practice, I was told that if you hand the person a box of Kleenex when they're crying, you are interfering with whatever development that they're going through in that moment. And so I've become very comfortable with witnessing and supporting and being a presence, being a witness, but like also being a step removed. So I feel, let me actually look at the feeling wheel, because also I have alexithymia, so I don't always know my feelings. I feel contemplative, and I feel optimistic and thankful. And so what am I going to do after that? Sorry?
I said I feel tingly.
Yeah. And so after this, I'll probably just drink water and take a little walk. And this one thing, I love your 10 things. One thing I try to do is look and kind of look at something far away, then a little closer to the right, then a little closer to the left, then a little closer to the right, and just move my eyes back and forth in this way and shift my focus. And that helps me to reset.
Yes, that is bilateral eye stimulation. That's so good. Did you know that intuitively?
No. I read it. I just didn't know the name. Thank you. I'm so glad you know these things.
Gosh, I guess my memory is not so bad. Amazing. Thank you so much, Shaun. Where can people find you on the internet if they want to be your client?
Great question. I guess the best way is to go to braintypes.org, and you could find me there and learn more about my work in neurodiversity. Well, thank you for creating a space for me to be here with you, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say.
Just
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'll see you again sometime.
Yes. Yeah, maybe in the cold of February.
I'll be wearing a turtleneck. Be well.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for being here. If you want to connect with the Neurodivergent Report, you can find us at ND Report Pod on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, Substack, etc.
If you're looking to support the show, the best thing you can do is subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Please do that.
And hey, if you want to check out more about us, visit our website at ndreportpod.com. And you can also go there if you want to be a guest contributor on the show.
Until next time. Be well, do good.
Yes.